In this episode of the 5 Year Millionaire podcast, I'm sitting down with Katrina, and she's sharing with me her story of how her first trade, I'm sure many of you can relate to this, she hit it out of the park, boatloads of money off a referral from a friend just saying, buy this stock. And you won't believe what happened to her next and how she also got reconnected with the trading community and found a new trading partner at one of our live trading events. I'm excited to bring you her story. Let's learn more about Katrina. So awesome. Well, thanks for taking time to chat with me. So I'd love to just kick it off and just walk me through how'd you first get introduced to like the stock market, and when was that moment where you just said like, I think this is the industry for me. I think I can make some money in this. What did that look like for you?
Well, a friend of mine introduced me to trading and was talking about the value in trading. And it was actually a client of mine. And at the time, he was in, I think, Tesla. And he was talking about how you should, look at stocks that's similar to Tesla that may not cost as much. At that time, it was Neo. Neo, I think, was trading for like $4. So he's like, I have no idea why Neo isn't moving when Tesla was moving $20, $30 at a time. So for me back then, if somebody gave me knowledge, I would just go and buy it. So at that time, I just went and bought Neo for $4. I bought quite a few shares. The next thing I know, it was $30 or $40. So at that point, I was hooked on
You
trading.
was hooked. You're like, look, I don't even know what I'm doing. He said, by
Exactly.
Neo, I did it. I made money. I'm in the game.
Exactly. Exactly.
Really? So that was like your first introduction to
That
the
was my
market.
that was my first like introduction to the market. And then social media, you see different shorts
Influencers and
about,
stuff.
yeah, the influencers about trading, and it just began to make sense. But I
That's
didn't have
super.
the foundation I needed.
Yeah, that's super interesting because I think a lot of people's journey probably start like that. Like they're getting their hair done and their hairdresser or their barbers, like I'm in this stock, it's working, and
Exactly.
you're like, I'm gonna buy
Exactly.
some too,
Mhm.
or and you don't have no idea what you buying or why, but you just buy some. And in the event that you actually make some money, you really be like, is it that easy?
Yep. Is it that easy? But I learned quickly that it
So,
wasn't that easy.
yeah, so walk me through that journey because, like, he told you about the stock, you bought it,
Hmm.
it went up.
Hmm.
Normally, when the beginner does something like that, they never want to sell it. So, like, I don't know, I'm just want to pull up Neo because I know it's not at 40 anymore. I think, oh, it's down to
Absolutely.
$4. It's back to where you bought it at. So, did you ever take profit? Did you
Yes, I
ride
took
it all the way
profit.
up?
I took profit when it went all the way up. It was such a long time ago. And then it started to pull back. Once it started to pull back, I think like $10, then I just took my profit and that was it. And then
Good for you,
that's
because most people would watch it come all the way back down, and that's their
right.
first experience.
Yeah, I was so anxious and excited that, I just wanted to cash out with what I had. I didn't want it to go back to zero.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you sold it,
I
and then
sold that.
from there, what
Then
happened?
from then
Not
on.
necessarily trade by trade, but like you got in first, hit it
Mhm,
out the
mhm.
park with a lucky like alley oop from a friend who gave you a referral on the stock. And
Right.
then like how'd your trading progress from there? Did you just keep hitting home runs? At some
From
point, I'm sure you ran into a brick wall.
Exactly. From then on, I started trading everything. And they say how your personal characteristics can spill over into your trading.
Hmm.
So for me, it was the discipline, it was the patience, all of those things that I didn't have. So it was a point where I would be trading like 17 different stocks at one time and have no clue what's going on, losing a lot of money. And then a friend that I was talking to told me this is the guy that you wanna talk to. He has a very thorough program, et cetera, et cetera. He wasn't in the program itself, but he recommended you. And so
That's
that's
really
when
interesting too.
yeah. So that's when I started to listen to like your shorts on YouTube and Instagram. And then I started trading with Power Trade University. And initially, I can say that I did not apply myself, so I was still making some of the same mistakes. And I think I also had another trade where I bought Netflix, and it was an earnings play. And on Netflix, the stock, I bought the option for $200 and I made maybe 5K. And so I was just so excited. I thought that I knew exactly what I was doing. So it was a bittersweet moment. And the bittersweetness about it was that it was sweet that I won the money, but it was bad in that I really fooled myself into thinking that I was a good trader when really I didn't have the foundation. So over the last few months, especially after the last event, which I actually met a trading partner there, it's been like really, really good. I've been applying myself more, and I've been able to use like the different strategies that I never applied. And I'm mad at myself because I never would have lost as much as I did if I had just applied myself to like the different courses that you have. Even I think you mentioned how, well, you did mention about using margin. You didn't really go into detail, but just the sweetness of having that, that capital available, especially if having have good entries and a little bit about what you're doing is very, what can I say? I'm at a loss for words.
Lucrative. It could be profitable, huh?
It's very lucrative. And I had a trade like 2 weeks ago. I had half the money to buy 100 shares of Tesla. And
Mm.
so I didn't think about the margin, because when you hear people talk about margin, they say it's a bad thing. Don't use it. You'll lose all your money. But that wasn't the case. So I had half the money for Tesla. And because I had a margin account, I was able to buy 100 shares of Tesla on margin. And Tesla's ATR, or average true range, is like $6 to $8 at this time. So I was able to jump in Tesla, make $600 and jump back out within the matter of minutes. So that just showed me the power of it. I was a little nervous because, the interest rates and all of that, but you only charge interest for the time in which you use it. So that day, I think maybe it was about $3 of interest to make $700. It was a good day.
Wow, so there's a lot to unpack there. A couple of different things. So first, I want to come back to that because that's I know we taught margin at the live event, but there's a couple of things I want to touch on. You found a trading partner, but let me go back for a second.
Okay.
So this person, I think that's interesting. They must be a good mentor. You must trust this person because if they told you buy Neo, you bought Neo.
Yes.
They told you to take a program that they weren't even in, but they
Yes.
said it was good, which I don't even know how that happens. They must have had a lot of respect for my free content, I'm assuming, to say he has a really good,
Yeah.
thorough program. So you trusted that person. And then obviously you started following me and listening to some of my stuff on your own. What was it like? I think for not just women, but particularly in this series that we've been doing, we've been interviewing the women traders of our platform. What was it like taking your hard-earned money and investing in education? Because I think a lot of people think like, I don't need any training. I can watch free videos on YouTube, or I'll try it. For one, I see what happens too many times is I'm going to try it, and if I blow up my account, then I'll get some trade. And sure enough, they blow up their account, and then they come back and like, yeah, I lost all my money. I should get some training. So what was it for you like pulling the trigger and investing in yourself? Plus, you came to the live event, so you invested in yourself once again. But that initial time, I know sometimes it's scary to
Mhm.
maybe trust a stranger on the internet, or so what was that process like for you?
For me, I can't say I didn't initially join when he told me. So it took me like about 5 or 6 months of just like watching videos and, getting a little bit more understanding. And then I think it was you as a person, I guess, seeing that you were real, like with your family, and it wasn't like you was just trying to floss, or it just you was sincere about and passionate about teaching. So that's one of the things that stood out to me. And like some of the trades or some things you recommended, I would actually see the benefits of it, like it happening, or like maybe you may have like your wins. That was very powerful to me. Like you went and paid off your house. I'm like, is that real? But, in seeing like the little money that I made from Neo, the little money that I made from Netflix, if it was magnified, I could see that it was real. So that was something that kind of pushed me to actually investing in myself and getting a membership and treating it more respect than I had been treating it with.
Yeah, because it's an interesting industry. Like, we'll go to school to learn to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. We'll go 4 or 5 years for that. But then we think we can come over here to this industry, which is arguably more powerful than those. When I mean from a financial standpoint and what you can make and in a short period of time. And a lot of times we come over here and we're like, I don't need any training. I don't need any education. I don't need any help. And I'm like, Really?
Right.
But in every other area of your life, you would be like, get a coach, get some training, learn, go
Hmm.
to school
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
this. But in
Hmm.
this area, for some reason, people don't want to. That's interesting. You were listening for like 6 months because I interviewed Kim on the last episode, and she was saying she was listening for like a year. So I'm noticing
Hmm.
this theme of like 6 to 12 months of just kind of getting familiar with the industry. But I think that's cool because it shows that I think sometimes people be like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I haven't gotten started, or I've been listening for a while and I just can't jump off. But it's like everybody has their own time frame,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
and everybody has like a precursor to actually getting into the game, which just starts with podcasts and YouTube videos and following some stuff. And then you eventually make that leap. So you made the leap, made the investment. Obviously, you saw it was real for yourself. You took $250 and turned it into $5,000 in Netflix. That's a huge profit potential,
Yes.
not profit potential, real profit. Did you leave it in the market or did you take that money out and
I
spend
I
it? Like,
I left maybe four in the market and I lost it all back. And so that was the
mm.
bitter part of it. Because, I thought I knew what I was doing, but I wasn't. I was gambling when I took that Netflix trade right before earnings. So it was no strategy, no risk, no understanding the risk involved. So that was a very good learning lesson for me with that trade. So it was bittersweet.
Yeah, what I will say though is maybe you had a strategy and didn't know it because we do call it the lotto ticket strategy where we
Okay.
technically in power trades we like don't hold over earnings, right? We say we
Mhm.
don't hold over earnings because we like to trade predictable, repeatable patterns. However, if you want to win a lottery, you got to buy a ticket. And so, I mean, I don't know if this was your thought process, but it's
Yeah.
okay to be like, for $250, I want the opportunity to make 4 grand. And I'm
Mhm.
okay if I lose the 250. That's just the cost of admission. Now, if you say I'm gonna take $25,000 and bet it on earnings, and that's my last 25,000, that's not a strategy. That's gambling. But there is a calculated, there's sometimes where I'm like, for 2,000, like, let me see what happens. And it's like if
Exactly.
Facebook misses earnings like it did and falls 75 points, you're like, that 2,000 turns into 10,000. And
Right.
sometimes you'll
Right.
you'll take that risk reward ratio, but for the most part, yeah. But I believe where people mistake, and I love that you're humble and you're not taking this approach. Some people think because that earnings hit, they believe they can predict which company's going to miss earnings and which one
Right.
isn't. And it's like, we have no idea who's going to miss earnings and make. And even if, I mean, we saw with Netflix this most recent quarter, they
Mhm.
beat
Mhm.
earnings, but if they give bad guidance, stock
Mhm.
sold off because they guided down. So when people think they can accurately predict who's going to be earnings and what the CEO is going to say on the conference call and that they're going to raise their guidance, you're sadly mistaken if you think you can do that on a consistent basis every quarter. But if you say, I know I can't, but I'm willing to put $250 up to see if I can make $5,000 again, then that's like, okay, you're of sound mind and body and you know why you're doing it. But if you're just guessing, yeah, you guessing, you gambling.
Well, yeah, that one I did guess, but the more recent one on Tesla, I did actually think I had, had some type of strategy because I saw that it had a resistance at like 160. It had dropped down to like 138, which was support level. So I said, okay, I'll risk this 200. to
See,
see if
now you
it
talking
dropped to
that talk.
160.
So you talking that talk. Now I looked at support, resistance. I knew how much it
Right.
could rise up. That's where you want to be when you're making your trades. And so you told me you use margin. Margin is a powerful thing that I don't think most people understand. So at the live event, we talked about margin because I did a margin trade on Tesla that I showed you guys. I don't remember how much I made, but it was something ridiculous. I think I made 60 or 70,000, I don't know, 60,000, something like that, ridiculous. But the power in margin, like you said, if you have half the money to buy 100 shares, you can borrow the other half. So you're only on margin for 50% of it.
Correct.
And if you're using it to day trade or get in and out like that, once you know the interest rate, so you're like, okay, I'm paying $3 for the day to use this or $30, but I can make, would you make like 600, you said?
I made about, yeah, close to 600 on that trade.
I mean, who wouldn't borrow half the money for a day to
Hmm.
jump in and jump out and make $600? And one thing I like about trading, I'm primarily an options trader, but one thing I do like about stocks and margin, and I don't know if you feel this way about it, but what's not, sometimes when you trade options, you can lose 100% of the money.
Hmm. Hmm.
Even if you buy Tesla with half your money, half on margin, the only way you could lose all of it is Tesla goes out of business, which is
Correct.
unlikely to happen. So it's
Anytime soon.
unlikely that you lose your money and the margins money, the money that you brought,
Correct.
especially down at the levels that it's at right now. Was that, if you hadn't looked at it like that, was that your thought process when you went to borrow the money, or was it just
That
like, I just
was
want to get in and get out quick?
Yeah, that was definitely my thought process. And I thought about like if I was to hold it, how much would that cost? And if that's $3 a day, that's just $90. And we know how Tesla moved that. I can get that $90 back so quick, in terms of the interest. So, yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Calculating that risk reward. I love it. And that's what people don't normally do. It's like, don't borrow money. It's like, well, how much is the interest and how much do I think I
Mhm.
can earn? If I can out earn the interest, then yeah, I'll
Correct.
borrow it. We borrow for everything. We borrow for a TV that don't make us no money. We swipe our credit card for some clothes, right? That we pay interest on, but we won't borrow money to invest. I just think most people aren't educated. So how'd you connect with who do you mind sharing? Who did you connect with at the event? Now that y'all are trading partners, I'm like,
Uh,
that makes me feel good because that's why we put the live event on, is for people to come together and to know that it's continuing outside. I think that's powerful.
Yeah, I just want to mention one thing about the live event. To be there and see so many people that's on the same path. It was just so powerful. And seeing some of the older, well, I would say more mature traders there, that's like killing it. I'm like, okay, I got to figure this out. So at my table, of course we were all talking. His name is Rodney Campbell.
Oh yeah, I know Rodney. Yeah.
He's been part of PTU for quite a long time, and he was just asking me questions that I couldn't answer. And he would say, "How long you been in PTU again?" And I felt embarrassed because a lot of those questions I should have had answers to. So he's like, if you don't understand it, then listen to it 2 or 3 or 4 more times. And it just helped me with my studying. Sometimes I get ready to click a trade and I get a text like, I don't think that's that support now. Not that, and it just kind of checks me and makes me more accountable. So,
Oh, super
so it's been
cool.
interesting. Yeah.
Oh, that's super cool. I'm glad to hear that because that's what it's all about. Is this should be a team sport, not go back home, have nobody to talk to, do this on your
Correct.
own,
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
why we got the community forum. But for you guys to partner up and keep each other accountable, that just, I mean, that right there, like that'll keep me going at least for the next year, because sometimes when I do this stuff, I'm like, is anybody getting value? Is anybody connecting? Are people getting it? And to hear you guys are connecting and making it happen like that, it's
Yeah.
like, yes, that's why we went through all the trouble hosting the live event and finding the space.
Right.
You
And
know.
it's made us both better traders. It's made us both better traders. So I think that's like that's it's been the best experience going to the live event, but then too having a partner. I mean, I think our trading profits has went up quite a bit just having a partner. So
Oh, I love that. So we talked about a financial win that you had, 250
Mhm,
to $5,000.
mhm.
Like, I don't care if you did it on purpose or by mistake. Here's the reason I say that is because you can't even make the mistake if you're not in the game.
Right,
You got to
right,
get in the game to even have a lottery ticket, have that number even get called. You know what I'm saying?
right,
You can't get the
right,
number
correct,
called if you're on the sidelines. So
right.
from that standpoint, sometimes I think want people to understand like just being in the game allows you to have some phenomenal things happen for you. So let's go to the opposite side of like what's a non-financial win? So something that has nothing to do with money that you're like, man, because I'm trading or because I'm doing this, it's a win in my book.
I would say because I'm trading this, it makes my financial responsibilities less stressful. Also, it gives me a little more time to spend with my children, with my family, because I don't have to work as much. Those are two of the, I would say, the main things that I appreciate from, trading.
Yeah, you don't need nothing else from that. I mean, that's that's what we all working for in this life. Because when I
Yeah.
when I started, my whole thought process was like, I'm gonna have a family someday. I'm gonna have kids someday. I mean, God willing, right? We all think we can, but I remember we couldn't even get pregnant. That's a whole nother story, a whole nother journey. You think like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have two or three, and then you find out you can't even have one.
Mhm, mhm,
That's a whole nother that's another podcast for another day. But my point is I knew I wanted a family and be dad and be present. And I was like, I want to be around and not have to work. I watched my mom work two jobs all her
mhm,
life, or at
mhm,
least
mhm.
all of her adult life that I was aware. And, good mom, but she was always working two jobs. She was always tired. And I was like, man, I want to be able to be there for my kids, go on the field trips. So to hear you say, that's your big non-financial win. Those are big two. I don't even need to know what three and four and five is. It's like that's what most people strive for is to get their time back, or at least to get
Mhm.
a portion of their time back, which is what was important to me when I started out working those weekends in retail.
Right.
So what's one of your next goals then? I am curious. Like I know you did the vision board exercise. Like what's a goal that you're like, this is a big goal and it's probably even scary to say it, but I'm going after it.
In terms, okay. Well, you've done like a classes on different opportunities that you have, the more money that you have. So for me, I'm just trying to get to 100K right now. I want to get to 100K so that I can do a lot more, even less stress trading. So
I like that.
that's to be honest, that's my goal right now. And I mentioned earlier about the 6 months. That time it was just like trying to figure it out and also trying to save money so that I could, take the course and be able to pay the monthly fees. And then this last year has just been about trying to save the money so that I can have more capital to invest because the more capital you have, of course, the more profit you can make. So even after event, my whole thing is like, how can I get 100K? How can I get 100K? Because just the way that you described it, it just makes your trading just so much less stressful in doing the different strategies that we are learning in the university.
Yeah, and with 100K, that's like it's kind of like the holy grail number in the industry because at 100K, you can buy enough shares to where you don't need some huge, ridiculous movement. I mean, with
Right.
100K, think about it. A $50 stock, you can get 1,000 shares of a $50 stock and still have $50,000 left. And that $50 stock might move a dollar up and down a day, up and down an average true range of $2, $3. So if you're catching 50 cents to a dollar, you're well on your way to being able to make $500 to $1,000 in a day, and you still aren't using 100% of your account, and you're not using margin. So that is where those numbers start to really be like okay. Or just think you could buy 1,000 shares of $100 stock,
Mhm,
or
mhm.
you could
Mhm.
buy $10,000 worth of options. If it goes wrong, you still got 90,000 left. It does really
Yeah,
start to open up the the
definitely.
the door. Even that trade I did today that I did a case study on,
Mhm.
I used $55,000 to do it. I'm not saying everyone should risk 55,000 of their 100 grand, but I'm just saying that 55 turned into 46,000 profit, but you're able to start to play that game where when you're right, you're like, I don't have to trade the next 6 months or for the rest of this year if I don't need to.
So how did you get to the point where you were comfortable risking that much?
I said that in the video I did today. It's a muscle that you keep exercising. And so when I
Okay.
started, I only started with 500 bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was scared to lose the 500 because I went to the bank with 2,000. They had already lost $1,300. So I had 700 left. I spent 200 on some shoes. So I was afraid to lose the 2,000. Then once they lost 1,700 of it or 1,300 of it, I'm like, I got to spend 200 and make sure I got something to show for this money. And then I was afraid to lose the 500. Then when I took that student loan out, I had that 10,000. I wasn't afraid to lose the 10,000. I was more like, if I lose it, I'll be like everybody else. It's low interest debt. I'll pay it back over 10 years or whatever when I graduate. So that was my next level up from 500 to 10,000, risking 10,000. Once I grew it to 113,000, I'll never forget me and my cousin, because we were both trading. That was like my partner at the time. He doesn't really trade anymore. But
Mm-hmm.
once we got the account up to over 100,000, we started doing trades for like 40, 50 grand, and we'd make 10, 20 grand. So like I was so young, risking 40, 50 at like 21 because I had been scaling up from 500 to 10,000. That 10,000 grew to 113. Then I'm like, we're doing 40,000, $50,000 trades that's making 10, 20 grand as a young 21-year-old. We were just killing it. And then the trade that took me out, so 2 years in a row was doing like over 100,000. Year
Mm-hmm.
three, I was gonna buy that condo downtown Royal Oak, Michigan. It cost $500,000 for the condo. I had a quarter million. I was like, I want to buy it cash. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, I put the whole quarter million into a trade. And the funny thing is, I don't know if you know this part of the story, I was up 100,000, but I was like, it's not 500,000, so I'm not taking it, which is why the saying "you never go broke, take a profit" came from. Because I
Right.
was up
Right.
100,000, I should have just took the 100 and did it four more times. Instead, I was like, it ain't 500, I don't want it. And so I ended up losing it all. Well, I lost like 100. I don't know. I lost a big chunk, and then I lost like 75,000. Then like it just started going downhill from there. So my point is, after I went broke and lost that quarter million, I now don't have a problem risking up to 250,000. That's kind of like my max, but I don't have a problem risking up to 250,000 now because it's just that's my tolerance level. I've lost
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
250. I've come back from it, and so now
Mm-hmm.
that's like my threshold. Now I don't know what it's like to put 500,000 into a trade because I just haven't. I haven't had even a reason to do that. I'd rather put like 100 into five different trades or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. But 250 is like my threshold. I just kind of graduated up to that number. So now anything less than 250 is kind of like, yeah, if it's 50,000, I'll be okay.
Were those mainly option trades?
Those are all option trades. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. So that's how I scaled up to it. You don't just wake up and put 50 grand in the trade, 100 grand in the trade. You really scale up to it. So, which is why typically it's less scary because you've been leveling up along the way. You start
Mm-hmm.
to put 10,000 in. After a while, you're putting 20,000 in, and you're okay with that. You're just exercising that muscle, and you're getting stronger and stronger. You start to think like, well, I can buy insurance and put options just in case it goes down. You start thinking about all the ways you can also
Exactly.
stop your account from blowing
Exactly.
up. Like now,
Exactly.
I wouldn't put 250 grand in, but like, let's see what happens. Now it's like I got 200,000 in calls, maybe I got 25,000 to 50 in puts just in case it goes the opposite way. So you also get smarter about it, which
Mm-hmm.
takes the
Mm-hmm.
pressure down.
Correct. And I can say, like, even before joining, one of the things that got me was that you said you can make, I'll teach you how to make money when the market's going up, going down, and going sideways. And at that time, I only knew about buying calls. So that was just like, I would get, my heart would drop when the market started to go down. I had no idea what to do. I didn't even know how to get out my trade, if I should get out.
Mm.
So that just like sealed it for me, knowing how to use a put, knowing how to use spreads. Even when I bought Tesla and it started to pull back a little bit, I'm like, okay, I can get a put and catch this little move down to support. And if it popped back up, it's just really, really great to have those different strategies outside of just one strategy.
Yeah, you got moves and counter moves, and the market don't always go up. So everyone who only knows how to make money if the market goes up is like, well, what happens when it goes down? Like it did today. At the time of this recording,
Yes.
it tanked today.
Right.
And
Right.
that's why I felt compelled to do the video I did today, because I don't like to show people I make money when the market goes up. Everybody's a genius. Like, oh, I was in the
Mhm.
COVID-19 recovery. Everybody's a genius. What happens when it tanks? Like most people are like, I don't know what to do, or I just lost. And then we're like, I had one of the best days today.
Right.
Uh,
That's a
so that,
great feeling. That's a great feeling because I was on the other
right,
side of that feeling. So that's
right.
a great feeling.
So I'm super, yeah. So I'm glad you are like, that's what I'm talking about. How do I make money up, down, and sideways? And you
Correct.
feeling confident about it. And that is what allows you to level up the amount you're willing to put into a trade, because
Right.
you know what your move or your counter move is going to be to limit blowing up your entire account. So awesome. So as we get ready to wrap this up, man, this has been fun. This has been cool to
Mhm.
hear how you came to your journey, and then connecting with somebody at the event and leveling up your trading together. I love it. So what would you say to women who are thinking about getting into this industry? Because I've been asking this the last few episodes. When I looked at this industry, it was only white men. No
Mhm.
disrespect to
Mhm.
white men, but y'all didn't had the reins of the stock market forever, right? And then for women, it was like it's all men, no women, no matter if they black, white, or what ethnicity, is mostly men. But now women are starting to be more into the stock market. They're starting to can take control of their finances, even if like Soo Yoon we interviewed, who's a stay-at-home parent and partner and
Mhm.
wife,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
is handling the investments, which I'm like, you go, girl.
Mhm.
So, and then we interviewed Kim, who's like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm on my seventh business. I'm like, you go, girl. And so you
Right.
got all the way from stay at home mom to not sure I can make this happen to women in the entrepreneurial role. Like, I'm taking control of my finance in the stock market. What would you say to any woman on any end of that spectrum, or just women, period, thinking about getting into the industry?
I would tell them to get more information about the stock market. I would tell them to join PTU. I wasn't paid to say that. I would tell them to definitely to join a university because they're very detailed courses and it's very good community. And that, it may seem a little scary at first, but to be you may be a little nervous to invest, but to be patient with yourself and the more you learn, the more you earn. And and for me, and hopefully for other women, it definitely gives you more time with your family, because you won't have that stress of having to work so much, I should say.
Yeah, and once you get it going and start making
Yeah,
some money, you can start to
exactly.
pull it back in other areas, or at least not worry about how you go pay bills, right?
Right. And it'll give you more freedom. That's one of my goals too, to just have more freedom. And I see it happening. I see it happening.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing. And that freedom is so possible. I look at moments like this today where I made $46,000 in 24 hours, and like that is freedom, because you just bought. I mean, if I had to go get a job making $50,000 a year, working 40 hours a week, I just bought back a whole year of time.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's what the stock market allows you to do. When you took 250 and made $5,000, do you know
Yes.
people wait all year long to get a tax return for maybe $2,000? So you just pulled forward 2.5 years of tax returns on one Netflix trade. And
I
so
love
that's the
that.
power. You can pull forward that time that people are waiting to get a tax return. You got 2.5 years worth from one trade with $250. Even if it was by mistake, that's the power of being in the game. So thank you for sharing that. I hope it's been inspirational and insightful for other men and women, but especially for women who are thinking about getting into this industry. Any final words before we wrap up?
I just want to say thank you because from the beginning, I didn't really have money to get the options sometimes that you recommend. That you the $2,000-$3,000 options in the beginning I used to get so like confused and I felt like a little bit I don't know, I just felt bad that I wasn't at that point. But over time, you have classes outside of just trading. You do give us some semi-counseling classes too. So it's just like I curb my spending. I mean, this be sometimes where you get a little bit, passionate. So
Yeah.
so I so I curb like my spending habits just so I can like save money to get to that point. And I'm glad that you never like pull back. Like, well, for the people that only had this, then you could buy this for $2. Just like you always keep it at a high standard. And that kept me wanting to push myself to a higher standard. So I just want to say thanks for that.
That's yeah, I appreciate that because we try to find the best trades, not the cheapest trades. And
Right.
so some people
Right.
try to find the cheapest, but it might not be the best trades. And I'd rather you level your money up versus us level down and try to find, I don't know, dare I say like garbage trades just to be like, well, it's a cheap one. I want you to get the best ones you can buy, even if you paper trade it and just be like, that's what would have happened. It gives
Mhm.
you that motivation to get the money up to get in some of the better trades. Oh, I stepped on my foot pedal, but it it pushes you, like you said, to get your money so that you can be in the better trades. Because I don't just want to find something. I want to be able to sleep at night. I don't want to just put something out there to say, "Well, I found something." It's like, look, this is the best trade. I don't know if everybody can afford it, but this is the best one or two or three. So thank you for that feedback. That's super cool to hear. So awesome. Well, Katrina, I appreciate you. You've
Appreciate
been
you as well.
it's been a blessing to just spend this last, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes with you. And I'm super excited to release this out into the universe and see how many other women it helps and inspires to start their journey. So thanks so much for hanging out with me.
Thank you as well.